Welcome to the WRRD Podcast. Writing, reading, recovery, discovery is what we talk about tonight. I have back Caleb and Richard, my two good friends, who we like to talk about books, nerd out about books. So far, we've done about Stormlight, and now we're starting a series on the Wheel of Time. So, first of all, we want to say we're doing spoilers for the whole series here, whole Wheel of Time series, and this video is going to focus on the Eye of the World, book one. But we will be talking about things that we know. Yeah, Richard might be the only one. Well, I think Caleb has a copy too, but
I could run and get it, but I'm lazy.
Yeah, you don't have to. I have Lord of Chaos, so that counts. I'm a picture of Rand. Look, that's the coolest picture of Rand there is.
You're not wrong. It is the best.
I want the other covers to be more like that. What did you say?
Right out of the box.
The box.
What's in the box?
You mean like
Rand.
Rand and Lews Therin? Broen?
God, how has no one made that meme? Oh no. That's perfect.
When they become friends in the box.
Just playing patty cake together. Okay.
Well, let's start talking, Rich. You wanted to talk about this missing prologue.
Yeah, Ravens. I feel like it needs to be in the audiobook.
Is it the prologue, or does it come after the Lews Therin prologue?
It's before the Lews Therin prologue.
Okay.
Because it gives you context to the prologue. Rand's father actually tells you about Lews Therin and the Forsaken and how they're fallen Aes Sedai. And he gives you learn all the characters. It introduces you to them all. It shows Nynaeve as a young apprentice as a wisdom. It shows them all not on a busy holiday, but it's like them preparing, going through their usual year in the first one. And the Ravens, even when they were children, watching them, as the Dark One's eye has been on them since they were kids.
Creepy fuck.
Yeah. Weird guy.
Yeah, I think I mentioned before we started that the first book was split into two parts. And if I remember correctly, I think because I read the book originally as a two-parter. And I can't remember if it was part one or part two had that prologue, and then the other one had the Dragon Mount prologue.
Wait. You actually read it in two. There were two physical books.
Yep. That's how the library had it in high school.
That's cool, man.
Do you think if you could buy them that way?
Yeah, I'm gonna Google that real quick. Actually,
that's like I'm gonna try to.
Yeah,
that or I hallucinated it all, and you're on your own. It was called From the Two Rivers, Eye of the World, Part 1.
From the Two Rivers and To the Blight.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, the Dragon Mount prologue is the superior prologue to any fantasy prologue ever. So
it's probably true. Yeah. It's such a good tone setter for the whole book.
I think it leaves you with like very important questions that it's the start of Robert Jordan's theme of you're always going to have questions and you're going to have to try to answer them yourself.
Yeah. That, and it sets really well in our minds just how bad things went for the dragon. So when we're talking about the Dragon Reborn, because really the Wheel of Time subverts the idea of the chosen hero, because the chosen hero is also the chosen destroyer. Like the prophesied hero is also the one that's going to blow up the world as well as save it
so
at the
cool.
same time. And so this is really the introduction to that first to that idea in the series. It's like, hey, this is a chosen hero story, but not the one you think it is.
Well, yeah, and that's why I have so much trouble. And in my last attempt at an Eye of the World video, which Caleb destroyed,
I
uh, but
apologize.
before I knew it, no, it was it was ruined because of like audio. I think it was better before. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it, but just the idea that this is a retelling of Lord of the Rings, like I have so much trouble with that because while there are beats that he's hitting that are similar to Fellowship and like the naming conventions are similar, like the idea of Jesus being also Satan and having to deal with that in the world as he goes about trying to save the world and also everybody knows he's going to destroy it. That is a completely unique idea that I haven't seen in fantasy except after Jordan like ripping it off, kind of riffing on the same idea. But I feel like at that point that was a pretty unique idea. Do you guys have any other experience to the contrary of that?
No, actually, I would concur very heavily. I think after Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings just became this is what fantasy is. So if you read like Sword of Shannara, if you read the Prydain Legacy or anything like that, from that sort of 40, 50-year window after the Lord of the Rings comes out, they all end up, like this is a lot like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And so even if they have their own like unique things, I know Prydain Legacy, the last book is basically just here's Return of the King to end our series. So we
Spoiled that.
well, spoilers for the Black Cauldron. Okay, there you go. If you've never seen the Black Cauldron.
No,
But yeah, it's just a really interesting subversion of a really common trope we see in fantasy all the way through to today.
Yeah, and like I don't know, man. It's
the only thing I can think of that is like it is Star Wars. I mean,
with Darth Vader.
yeah, well, yeah, with Anakin Skywalker. I mean, like his fall is the same thing that like brings the light, which is the same as this. I have to get my charger, sorry.
Well, I guess now that you mentioned that, that's kind of the Paul Atreides arc as well in Dune, where he's supposed to, well, he's the chosen one of the Fremen people, that's this he's seeded into this religion. But he's also going to destroy everything on his jihad. So I guess that would be but that's more sci-fi, so maybe the idea. I watched a video too earlier where they were comparing the Aes Sedai to the Bene Gesserit as well. So there's some parallels, maybe more with Dune than Lord of the Rings actually. But in a fantasy setting, I think it's very cool because you can actually. Whereas in Dune, you're relying more on like, okay, this is far future, so we're relying on technology to have advanced this character to a point where he can do things that are almost magical. Whereas in this fantasy setting, we can say, no, this is actually just him channeling the one source. And that's how he is Jesus and Satan at the same time.
Well, and I foresee us comparing Dune to The Wheel of Time when we get to book 3. Because book 3 tackles a lot of that. Did the prophecy give Rand the steps he needed to take to become the Dragon Reborn, or is he just doing what he's supposed to do and it's preordained? It's this kind of interesting question of does the prophecy make the hero, or does the prophecy make the hero?
Right.
It's
I know
it's
what you're saying.
it's sort of are all prophecies self-fulfilling? How about that? That they're so up to interpretation that you can almost always find something that makes them work.
Yeah.
But again, that's probably something to tackle him by the time we get to book 3, because that's where Rand starts making decisions based on his understanding of the prophecies.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually going to that's the big one, right? Is he goes to the Stone of Tyr.
Yeah.
Because he knows that he's supposed to, because Calendor. Collindor. Collindor.
Yeah. To eventually goes out to the deserts for the IEO because he's like, oh, prophecy.
I gotta fulfill the prophecy, but I also can't do what anybody expects me to do because they're gonna stab me in the back.
Yeah, he's like, oh,
But that's for book 4 discussion.
yeah.
Let's try to stay.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
try not
Focus.
to just do the whole series in one video,
Focus.
or we'll be here for 9 hours.
Yeah.
Be here all
we,
night.
We were on the
John has
prologue.
to go to work in the morning, I think.
Nope. No work. No work
Oh,
tomorrow. So prologue, drag him out. That's where we're at. So yeah, so we've got Luce there, and he's walking around in the audiobook. He's really funny. His voice is funny. Elena, my love, we have guests. And he sounds like the audiobook guy, Michael Kramer, sounds like Captain Kirk. Have you ever listened to it, Caleb? The audiobook?
Oh, I've never listened to it.
He does. I mean, he's great at it. It's the same guy that does Stormlight Archive, but yeah. Anyway, sounds like especially with the '90s like recording. It sounds like that. But anyway, so he's walking through this destroyed palace or something, and then this guy is just like, "Yes, I fucked you up, man." So anyway, what do you guys think about the prologue? Where are you at with it?
I mean, it hints at so much. I mean, it hints that it shows you that there is the Dark One's power, the one that they don't tell you about until the end of the series, because that's what they use to heal Luce Theron and why it hurts so much. At the end, they use the Dark One's own power. So, I mean, they don't talk about it for a while. They don't talk about this other power. They talk about the male half and the female half. And when the Forsaken get introduced, they slightly talk about it. But this is like your first. It gives you the assumption that you kind of put it in this. Oh, that's just the male half. That's what they mean. But that's not what it is. It's the actual Dark One's power.
The true source. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. And that's how he gives him his memories to torture him, right?
Mm-hmm. That's how he cures his madness, which is also the first thing that tells us madness can be cured, which is a big thing in the later books. 4 or 5 of them. That's Nynaeve's thing.
Well, it's also our first hint that Ishamel's up and running around, that he didn't get sealed in the Dark One's prison. Which I, as a high schooler, I'd never actually caught that. I was like, oh yeah, no, this is what happened. It was all good. I never actually, and then, I'm rereading, and then book 4, it's like, it just looks me in the face and is like, no, this did happen. It says right here. I'm like, crap.
You're like, oh.
Reading comprehension's gotten a little better in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, I think that it's like a little bit this is it's still in my head, this prologue. It's like got its claws in me, and it's really hard for me to like when I think about writing in my own life, my own shit, it's really hard for me not to just start writing the Drag 'em Out prologue because it's so cool. But at the same time, it's like fucking cheesy because he's like, I win again, Luce. Doesn't he say that in this prologue? Or am I thinking of a different thing?
No, he's basically twiddling his thumbs and doing the evil, twisty mustache.
But then we get an explanation of it later in the series, because spoilers,
Yeah,
Ishamel has existed through an entire turning of the wheel. That's why he turned to the Dark One. He came to the conclusion that eventually the Dark One would win. And so he's witnessed him winning again and again and again and again and again. And so he's lost the perspective of him as an individual and only sees himself in the role of Ishamel or Balsamon or whatever he wants to be called now. He's lost who he is as a person individually by that point, which is probably a reflection of his own madness to some degree.
Yeah, it's it's really cool because it sets up the relationship between these two characters, and then Rand is Lews Therin reincarnated, so it's like just throughout the whole entire series until the very end, where they end up switching bodies and Ishamael gets to die.
Spoiler.
Huge spoiler. We're spoiling them all.
If you didn't believe us, that's on you, all right?
Yeah. The complete end scene that you've been waiting for 14 books. But
now you don't have to read them.
Where you have him going, I don't know. It's like it starts with these guys and you think that they're adversaries, but you find out later that they were like friends at one point, at different and then Ishamael went to the dark side, and then he gets to like give him the gift of death and relief. I think that's cool. It all starts here.
Ash to Kaladin. Sorry. Well, and it works just from a literary perspective. It's the cold opener of a movie. Before you go to Boy on a Farm, you need to set your tone and you need to set your promise that, hey, there's something going on other than Boy on a Farm, guys, we promise, right? It's the Tatooine 7 or Tatooine 4 scene in Star Wars, right? First you got to start with this big big battle in space going on, and then you can go to Boy on a Farm to set the stakes and set the tone and set everything else. So Dragonmount does that. This is a fight to the death, and the stakes are the entire world. And now Boy on a Farm. And so we're
also suicide.
Yeah, it's like it sets the tone that this is going to be, this is not, you don't want to be this guy reincarnated. And so when we start hearing about the dragon and the Dragon Reborn as the series goes on, it's like, oh, yeah, you don't want to be that guy. As opposed to, I don't know if we want to talk about it much, but as opposed to the TV show, where the whole point of the TV show is, ooh, which one gets to be the hero? And they didn't set up the horror of, you don't want to be the hero. You want to be anybody but the hero, and you want to be on the other side of the planet as the hero, because the hero kills everyone he ever knew and loved.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally missing element from the show, which is really unfortunate, because that was like the whole fucking thing, man, for me with stepping into this. Is this guy just killed his family? The magic that's all powerful that enables him to create a mountain is what drove him insane, and now he's killing himself and turning himself into that is fucking crazy shit. And you're just going to ignore that and we're just going to start on the farm.
So here's the real question that there's probably no answer to. Someone that's read like everything online that's ever been said might know the answer, my brother. And then, but he, the real question is, did he use balefire on himself, or did he use the weave that Egwene uses, the anti-balefire? The Flame of Tar-Valon, did he use that to create Dragonmount? That's the real kind of open-ended question, I think. Because I don't think it describes it as balefire. He's calling down the light to smite him.
The air turned to fire, the fire to light liquefied. The bolt that struck from the heavens would have seared and blinded any eye that glimpsed it, even for an instant. From the heavens it came, blazed through Lews Therin, Telamon, bored into the bowels of the earth. It cuts through stone.
Yeah, but the question is it balefire, or is it
the
flame?
It created something. It couldn't be balefire.
Yeah, I think it has to be the opposite weave.
What's the Flame of Tar-Valon?
We're going to do the whole series, guys.
You're getting it.
Book 14. Egwene if you remember in the last battle, there's so much balefire being launched around. The pattern is unraveling, and it's going to destroy the pattern. And she creates a weave that she labels in her mind the Flame of Tarvalon, which heals the pattern. It's an anti-balefire.
It's like a crystal.
Yeah.
To the like that's how they described it. It was a crystal that would build and that would like heal.
Yeah. Which Egwene can do because she's the most powerful of all time.
No, she's the Tarvalon. She's the. Oh.
No, Nynaeve is stronger.
True. I will allow Nynaeve all day, like with that shit. But I'm just saying, like each girl in this series, it's like, no, she's the most powerful of all time.
Yeah, and then Rand shows up every time.
Man,
he's just, yeah, but what if I just showed you that you weren't?
It's like, it's so funny because you're so used to these girls' perspective where they're like, I am the best. We are the best. Nobody can beat us. And then Rand shows up and is like, shut up. You're not the hero of prophecy. All right. Just sit down. Okay?
You ever seen a ceiling
just
full of
do what I
lightning
tell
bolts?
you to do.
Like,
yeah, and the cost of Rand doing that is Matt gets a spanking from somebody.
yeah.
Like the cost of Rand being dominant is that Matt will
BDSM.
Matt will get raped and spanked.
It's like
For Rand's domineering. Oh my god. So we move from the prologue to book 8 where there's a lot of spanking going on, but I think it's good world building, the spanking. I think that it's actually like part of their culture.
That and the lace adds to it, I will say.
What'd you say?
That and the lace. That honestly, if there's something Brandon Sanderson did wrong in the books, it was stopping talking about the bosoms and the lace.
Considerable bosoms.
Yeah. Every single
I need to know how big her breasts are, okay? Every female character we meet, it's an integral part. Sorry. That's going on the internet forever. Oh God.
No. It's Tuon's lady is the one I remember it with the most. Because every time Matt came into the caravan or whatever that Tuon was with her lady in waiting, it was every time it was that lady's considerable bosom and Tuon has no boobs.
He's like, yeah, okay, little boy.
It's also just part of Matt's character. Okay, we all know.
Yeah,
Matt,
he's a goblin. He's a little
yeah.
He likes what he likes. Okay, leave him alone.
Yeah. All right, so I think we covered kind of Sidene. That was the second point on here. Do you guys have anything you want to say about Sidene? I really like the way that it's described. And I still think about it whenever I eat like processed food. I'm like, I can taste the food in here. I can like feel the food in this thing in my body, but there's this like oil on top of the water. And that's like, you know, like he's always describing Sidene like there's this like beautiful, good thing happening, but then there's an ick about it too. I think that's great.
In my mind, I'm way too picky of an eater, so that's like as soon as onions are introduced to like a delicious dish, I just imagine that's what the taint to Sidene is. It's like no matter what, it's there. It's just nasty. So
I always thought the visual, it's like the really cool part about that description is you can almost like feel it yourself. Like the idea of like there's this disgusting oil over this clear like water, and it has like a visceral, tangible. I always thought it would be a really cool visual for like a visual effect for like a movie to see like having to plunge through like this viscous, nasty oil to get to what's underneath. And I always thought that'd be a cool visual show. Why? You just
giving you gold here.
Yeah, I mean,
Rafe.
The woman's half of Sidene is literally like this flower opening up. They say the visual multiple times.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, the male half is like digging your hand into a muddy puddle that's also a bunch of eels and fire attacking you. And like,
Well, and it's the difference between the two. It's why you can't. It's why you can't have a woman teach a man, because the way they control, you have to surrender to Sidar and you have to fight with Sidine. So there you go. Make fun of my pronunciations. Go.
hey, that was close.
I
Sidar,
think, yeah, Sidine, Sidar.
Sidine, and Sidar.
I've been practicing. Okay.
Yeah, he's been listening.
Well, I
I
think
got
that
these down. They're going on the internet.
I think it's pretty cool how like there's I like the gender roles in this world. Like, considerable bosoms and spankings aside. Uh I I appreciate the way that the magic system plays into how the genders operate in the world, to where the women are more in control, because if we let the men be in control, I don't know. I feel like it's a nice commentary on how our world has operated for years, with men being the predominant, force in charge. Yeah. Do you guys have anything to say about that?
It is kind of invert the roles a little bit, where because men who can channel go insane, women have this avenue for power in this world that we don't have in ours, and it kind of creates this interesting swap to some degree of the gender dynamic. And so I'm sure there's people that have like written entire essays on how like the white cloaks are like the force of misogyny or something. But I'm trying to reoppress the women. But the there is this kind of tension between a very traditional-esque medieval fantasy world, maybe, where the gender norms have sort of broken down a little bit, and the idea of there's this magic order of witches that kind of secretly run the entire world, or that
Yeah.
they like to think they do.
Well, in the first monarch we're introduced to is a queen,
Mm.
and she is also has a consultant who's an Aes Sedai, who
Well, and
has
I think that is part of why I have so much respect for how Robert Jordan does his world building, because we get introduced to Andor, which is essentially just medieval England, but he borrows the idea of the fact that basically for all of us, essentially, there's almost always been a queen of England, and so we're kind of we understand this idea that, oh, the queen, oh, cool, so this is like a queendom, not really a kingdom. That's an idea that we all kind of get and accept. It's been used enough in fantasy, I think, that we can kind of get it, and it's not that bizarre. And so when we go and we experience other governments and other cultures and other crazy stuff, we're operating from an assumption that the characters that we're seeing it through, certainly with the Two Rivers folk, that they're kind of operating from almost like they've been transplanted from medieval England into uh, a fantasy world that has all kinds of different cultures. And so we get to kind of see from a view that we understand to some degree to a view that we don't understand sometimes, and to see all these really cool, interesting cultures in like book 4 with the ale and um or the
ale. Like, is that like the drink, the ale?
camera's not on me, right? I can
Now it is.
It switches as soon as your finger goes up.
well, I have to cut that out. All right, let's go. What I think is an interesting segment, I guess, to the Two Rivers characters. How did you guys feel about them as sort of our vehicle for, in some respects, the series? I know we add characters like Elaine and Min become much more bigger point of view characters later on. But what did you think about them? Certainly going back and rereading book 1.
Nynaeve is just really annoying still. Huh. I guess I'm gonna get that right out of the way. We'll get that one gone. But I'm enjoying her and Lan talking more. So it's kind of redeeming her character in book one more than the first time. I remember the whole time being really just annoyed every time she'd be in the book. But this time I can at least enjoy like seeing the foreshadowing there as I'm going. But
Yeah, I feel that way I felt that way the first read through with Nynaeve, where it was very grating. Getting through Nynaeve's arc for me was a grating, annoying experience. But rereading she's like probably my favorite character. Her and Matt, I don't know, fight for that spot. And then Rand. But like just because she has it's such a payoff for all the shit she does later. Anyway. So it makes all of the stuff, it puts it in a different light for me. So when I'm reading the annoying shit at the beginning of Eye of the World in those early books, I love her. I'm like, oh, you're gonna change so much.
You're gonna be so cool when you stop being the most annoying thing that I've ever read. Someday you'll get there. Just not today.
Only takes what, 10 books or something?
I just feel bad for Moraine this entire time.
Oh,
I'm just like, oh my gosh, you are a better person than I. Like, if I had these annoying kids, all I'm trying to do is save their life and get them through this. And they just did everything in their power to mess it up along the way and try to divert away from you and run away. It just, I couldn't have done it.
Moraine that's what being a parent is. Like where you have to suck it up and then you have to fucking die in book 5. You're like, well, I saw the Aelfin or whatever the fuck told me that I have to die if Rand's gonna save the world, so I guess I'm gonna fucking die. Or when I go into the portal for 6 years.
Be trapped in chains naked for years.
Yeah, S&M gear.
Yeah.
I think that okay, so my feelings about Rand, Matt, and Perrin are kind of, I don't care so much about Matt or Perrin at the beginning. But I do appreciate Perrin's character work in Eye of the World. Well, Perrin's character work is he's a good character. I like that he has his conflict with the axe and the hammer. And I like that he struggles with finding ways to say things. I also enjoyed how the three characters are. I liked the tension that it created when they would have something that they weren't telling to each other with the dreams and stuff. It was frustrating sometimes too, but as far as the way that the characters presented it, I enjoyed it. Matt, we don't get a ton of character work in book 1, so there's not much.
Yeah, he really.
See, I don't know.
He isn't a point of view character until book 3.
Yeah.
We don't get a point of view, but I don't think that doesn't mean that he doesn't have a lot going on with him in the book. I mean,
well, he does, but we can't really get a perspective of him because the first time, and it's really clever that we'll talk about it in book 3. I'll just very briefly touch on it. The reason it's so good is we don't have any first person Matt until he loses his memories. And so that's the first time we get to see Matt as a character. And so we don't know what it's like inside his head. We don't know what he remembers, what he doesn't remember. We don't know if he knows how he felt in the past. We don't know anything about him. He's a completely blank slate to some degree. Even though he does retain obviously some memory, we just don't know how much he actually remembers. And so he gets to kind of exist as this blank slate character in book 3. for. I will agree he is a fun character. He's not obviously as fun as he gets to be. Um, Obviously, is like the party's roguish. Is this guy really a good guy kind of character? We've already talked a little bit about Rand having, struggling obviously with the nature of the dragon, and so is like the subversion of the chosen hero, and him in this book just really coming to grips with the idea that he's not who he thought he was, and he can't really be who he thought he was going to be. That person can't exist. He's not that person. And that's kind of his arc through this book. Not even really accepting who he needs to be. I don't think he ends this book thinking he's the Dragon Reborn. He really doesn't. And so to have in this book the idea that he's just I I'm not my I'm not who I thought I was, from the very beginning, the end of the first chapter, him hearing Tam in his fever dream essentially talking about how Rand's not his son,
Yeah.
and that's going to upset his whole world. I am the resident Perrin lover here, I think.
No, dude.
I love him. He's a really fun subversion. I don't know how well developed sort of our modern like D&D understanding of a barbarian was by the time Eye of the World came out, but he's a really fun subversion of the barbarian trope, the idea of a rage-fueled warrior. Only he's a rage-fueled warrior that is afraid of his rage. He doesn't like it. It's this, and it's because of the Wolf Brother thing, he's able to some degree to personify it as something alien to himself, which I think is really cool. And I wonder sometimes how much of that is um, Robert Jordan processing his emotions having served in Vietnam um, to some degree. Um, these are kind of just some random stray thoughts, perhaps. But I think Perrin is just a really fun character to explore some really complicated ideas. He starts as this gentle giant character. He wants to be that guy. That's who he wants to be. I want to be the slow speaking, soft, gentle giant. And he kind of ends up thrust a into being the party's barbarian to some degree, and struggling with what that means. And I think it's just a really fun exploration as a character. A really good idea for a D&D barbarian. How about that?
Well, Perrin is really the first piece that sets the three adrift with their secrets. Like, because Rand doesn't know about his whole dragon thing yet. Perrin's the first, he gets his yellow eyes the first. And then the dagger only affects Matt later in the books. So,
Not book 2, yeah. This really starts taking effect, yeah.
so this is like the first like big thing revealed. We get a POV into a certain side of the magic system. Like at least a little piece of the puzzle. This is like a little, like he's feeding us a little tidbit, a little piece of bait. Be like, oh, the wolves are, whoa, Hopper. Oh no, no Hopper, and then like, like it just sucks you along, and then you have the white cloaks, which it immediately makes you hate the white cloaks. Like he puts you in that realm with those. He uses Perrin a lot in this to cement a lot of the outer aspects of the world, I feel.
Yeah, well, with the light cloaks too, like it makes me think with Perrin, where Perrin's like just walking, like kind of hunched shoulder, and he's like just walking through a plane, and then the white cloaks are like, hey, you've got yellow eyes, you a dark friend. He's like, fuck off, fuck off, and then they like keep going at him, and then finally he's like goes berserker, like, just axing everybody, like. So through the whole series until whatever the fucking court scene happened.
Yeah,
I think
the trial.
I think it would have been really easy in book 1 because we don't trust the Aes Sedai, we don't trust Moraine really. It would have been easy to kind of be like, are these White Cloaks the good guys? Except that we have Perrin's perspective and we realize they're like the the most psychotic Spanish Inquisition type like crazies you could possibly run into. They
And
are
then
like your stereotypical evil, you know, evil paladins hunting around. They think they're doing the right thing, but in their quest for good, they've forgotten what good means, and it's kind of left them in this horrible position. But at the same time, they're this group that sees dark friends everywhere, and we're also getting to experience through Rand's eyes, through the I know we'll talk about it later, but we're getting to experience their dark friends everywhere.
They are everywhere.
He's just he can't get away, and it's
Record it.
just really cool. Um, like, oh, these guys do have a point. There are dark friends everywhere, but they have no idea how to find them.
Well, and like right, and how do you say to somebody, "Hey, no, I actually am Jesus." You know, you
I'm
can't.
Jesus.
It
I'm
doesn't
also
work.
Satan, but I'm Jesus.
Right.
You don't
Like,
understand.
and if you do say that, then the White Cloaks are still like, well, okay, yeah, we're
You
taking
can
you.
channel, therefore
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah. So like either
you're a
way,
witch.
which is like this really cool tension that's like always there with the White Cloaks too, with Rand, and how they're seeing dark friends everywhere. He's seeing dark friends everywhere, but they cannot come to like
Well,
a.
And this also like sets the pace that because the White Cloaks go back to parents' family. This sets this starts the pace that we will be back to the Two Rivers at some point. Like there is still stuff going on over here, even though we've traveled across the world and split it up at the end of this book. There's still stuff going on back home. They left a mess.
Yeah, which is so cool. It's so cool that they return in the middle of a series like this. The series is so big. But I think we better get back to so we're at the Two Rivers characters. Is there anyone Egwene? Does anybody have any thoughts on Egwene? I didn't really have much to say, too much to think about her until book 2. She's very big book 2 character. I loved her in book 2. Book 1, I didn't have too many thoughts about her. Nynaeve, I have a lot of thoughts about. But I already said those. Do you guys have any thoughts on Egwene or Lan? I guess maybe we should talk about those two in this part of the book.
I mean, Lan's just a great character, period. And I think book 2, he comes a little bit more into his own in book 2 with helping Rand at the very beginning. But
yeah,
and really starting him on Rand's book 2 arc. But I think for Egwene, she's on this journey of she's also has a very similar journey to Rand, where she has to accept that she can't be who she thought she was going to be. They kind of both have to go through that arc. Now, hers is a bit more exciting. She doesn't realize that who she is a lie in this kind of the same way that Rand does. But she has to kind of embrace that she exists for a higher calling, which is not as sympathetic of a story, I think, than Rand, obviously, but it is a really cool place to start. And she really earns her sympathy in book 2, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, quite a bit. But in book 1, she kind of is more of a background character, and that's okay. That's kind of where she belongs for now. We really do need to establish Rand as our main hero villain character, and Perrin is also a really good choice because he's so kind of level-headed, and like Rich said, he is the character we get to see a little bit more of the world through. from the White Cloak's perspective and things like that, and the Tuatha on.
So
Not make fun of me.
No, I did not spell it right. So I was like looking at you, looking at it, and I was like,
I was
I'm
like, is that
fucking
how you
Caleb up.
say that? I'm like blind because I don't have my glasses on. I'm just like,
Tuatha
Well-
on my ear.
so
Tuatha.
I do think that Egwene shows the dramatized version of touching the power for the first time
Mm.
in comparison to Rand. Because that happens in the series. Like, that's how it's explained, and then you see it with Rand. Like, her training with Moraine
explains it to Nynaeve. Because remember,
yeah, that was
Nynaeve's
outside
where
Shadow Logoth.
she's explaining to Nynaeve, like, hey,
No, Shadow
you
Logoth.
hate us, but you are us. And she's like, hey, remember when you did something miraculous? And remember how you felt afterwards? Yeah, that's the power, baby. And then we get to see Rand, and that happened to Rand, like the
Yeah.
very next chapter. It's like, wait, something miraculous happened with Rand. A lightning struck the wall. That was weird. Oh, he's sick. Oh, that's weird.
It's like,
Cool. It's my favorite. Everyone complains about On the Road to Camelin. I love On the Road to Camelin. I really do. It's a great sequence.
Yeah, let's talk more about that here in a minute. But so you were saying that Egwene touches the power first out of the girls? Rich? Was that what you were saying?
Technically, I think we see her touch it first.
Yeah.
Because she does the fire with Perrin.
Does Moraine say to her first? Because I know what you're talking about, Caleb, where
No, because they don't meet back up with Moraine until later. That's after the White Cloak. So she's with Nynaeve, and she tells Nynaeve that she has the power. Like, she can tell that she has the ability.
Yeah, after Nynaeve catches up to them. Because I think Nynaeve doesn't catch up to them until after Shedder Logoth.
Yeah, right after. Right after.
But before Shedder Logoth, I think she teaches Egwene how to act. She's teaching her about the flower opening.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Since Tam has already taught Rand the flame in the void, we don't realize it quite yet. We get both perspectives of how to access the true source really early on in the series, and it's so cool from like a magic world building standpoint, that there's essentially like half of this book or almost the entire book, that all it does is tell us this is how you just access the magic as a magic user. And the descriptions of it are very tangible and visible. Like, it's a visual metaphor for both of them to some degree. And it sets a really cool, it's so well done. The idea, it's just something you can visualize and then imprint that onto yourself as a feeling is also really cool. And the idea that you're surrendering your emotions to the flower, whereas you're feeding it to the flame, with the flame in the void. It's just such a cool, like visual metaphor for what these magic users are doing. It's so well done. I can't talk about it enough.
Yeah, I also love whenever a magic system is something that you can apply in the real world, like the flame. Like, I remember, I like what you're talking about, where you can visualize it very well with the flower too. All those scenes I related to as well, but like specifically the flame, the void, and feeding the emotions into it. I would like be at Dot with my earbud in, and I would be just kidding, and I would be like doing that with my picking thoughts, like my warehouse thoughts. I'd be like,
she's just like, you're gone.
My back pain is fed to the flames. I don't feel it anymore.
Heavier than a mountain.
Lighter than a feather.
Caleb, did you do catwalks across the courtyard to me yesterday?
I did.
You son of a bitch. I caught it, but like I was not quick enough.
I think you were making fun of like the way I was walking or something. I was just like catwalks across the courtyard.
That's a sword move, right? In Wheel of Time?
No, it's the it happens at the beginning of the second book with Land. It's
The
it's like
training
the
sequence.
swordsman. It's like the swordsman's walking stance.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
supposed to be like
Yeah.
how they. It's like it's the gunslinger walk.
This is what you did.
They can't. Yeah, I just did the most insane exaggerated version, but it's like a gunslinger walk almost, where you have like your hands down at your side and you're doing that, but it's like
Yeah.
supposed to be like cool and calm and put you in a mindset. Kind of like the Flame of the Void does, but it's supposed to put you in a mindset, and Land uses it in book 2. But that's for book 2 discussion time.
Yeah, well, I fucking love these books so much. I cannot. Anyway, all right. So now let's go from Two Rivers to Barrelon. So that's basically just Min, except for I think Barrelon is where Moraine steps over.
True, steps over a wall.
Fucking wall for the only time ever that she becomes giant. It steps over a wall.
It's
and
really
nobody
fun.
cares.
It's really fun because Robert Jordan was like, at this point, the magic is a soft magic system, and it's just magic, like just generic magic. Like she just straight up casts like enlarge reduce on herself from D&D. She's just like, yep, that's what I've done. Deal with it. And in reality, it's like later on he's gonna be like, nah, we're gonna make it a hard magic system now. We're not going to go back and explain any of that other stuff that we did, though, because it'd be hard to explain. So it is really fun. The character of Min, however, Min being obviously the best girl, the best of the harem. I think it's it's one of the, like Dragon Mount, it's one of the really cool parts because she looks at all 3 of the guys and we get to have some insight on what's going to happen to them. We get a little foreshadowing with all of them, and it's so much fun to go back on a reread and see her visions and be like, oh, I know what that is. I know why he has one hand in the thing, and I know why there's an eye on the scale with It's such a fun like going back and rereading because you're like, holy cow, this was so well set up.
Was there one hand for Rand?
Yeah, I think there was. I think it's a one hand. I can't remember all the stuff.
I know Matt's. Like Matt's is, trade the half the world, half the slide of the world or whatever. Like,
yeah.
But
yeah, Rand has a hawk on one shoulder and
Perrin.
Sorry, but Perrin has a hawk on one shoulder and I can't remember the other bird on the other, but it's
Falcon.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That's when Min says that Perrin's going to be looking for Fael for 5 books.
Yeah.
God, my favorite romance.
I'm going to be mean to you. Him. Oh, that's good.
We'll fight. There'll be an entire episode that's just you and I fist fighting in the warehouse.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then during this time, there's like some dream stuff going on. So we're like having the boys. Is it just the boys having the dreams?
Because Ishamel doesn't know which one is the dragon.
In the show, do the girls get the dreams? I shouldn't have.
I don't know if there's dreams. I don't know if there's anything in the show that worth remembering. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. We'll go back. Oh, sorry. Nightmare.
There's a reason I didn't watch season 2. I didn't want to. I didn't need more of it in my head. Get it out.
Yeah. And then later, Perrin and Egwene and Rand have a love triangle in the book. That's canon, right?
Yeah. We've been reading the beginning of this book again. I just don't understand where Perrin's wife is.
Where's his wife, bro?
I thought he killed her.
Why does he have so much trouble with his axe thing if he didn't kill his wife? How are you going to have trouble with the axe
It's lost
if you
on
didn't
me.
kill your wife?
I kind of got bored of his POV.
Except he doesn't have a problem with the axe in the show. So, I mean, God, it's so stupid.
Okay, so we didn't.
Yeah, it's in here. It's in the notes. Shit on the show right here before Shadow Logoth, because
I apologize.
Shadow Logoth is where we create something evil, more evil than the Dark One, to defeat the Dark One. So that's what we have to do with the show. That's why that's why we put that there.
Oh gosh,
Tie it on.
I think Shader Logoth is fun. I don't know if it's ever really explained, like
until Rand
the
nukes
magic
it.
system for how that happens. Like how does that happen? We're never gonna explain it. That's the answer. And but I think it's such a fun set piece as sort of our Act 1 climax to some degree, where we're gonna separate our party. It really upsets. Yeah, the book is a travel log. Really, the first 3 or 4 books are travel logs, but this is kind of where we get the idea that holy moly, we're in way over our heads. I think this is the hint, I think, especially for our party, that adventure, not what you think it is. You don't want any part of it. The world's a really dark and scary place. And Shatter Logoth is where they have to come kind of face to face with that, being hunted by monsters through the streets, and the monsters are being hunted by something else that's even scarier than the monsters. It's a really fun sequence, but it's also a really nice just a really good inflection point for our characters, that certainly for Rand, and maybe some of the others like Egwene, that man, the adventure books are just not reality. And so coming to grips with this is not going to be a fun romp through the forest. This is going to be like a life altering or life ending event.
Well, they try to make it fun, Rand and Matt. Like, I feel like they're like every city they come to, including Shadow Logoth, every city they come to, they're like, we've never been to a city, so let's go look at the city. And one of them's like, no, I'm sick from nightmares or something.
That's when Rand's like, wait, something's wrong.
And then they're like, but we're not going to talk about it. Actually, it's not the nightmares. I'm just tired. I'm tired. They're like an unhealthy like marriage where one of them is just complaining of being tired, and what's really going on is they're having nightmares about the devil killing them and shit. But like, they're not communicating. But then Rand and Matt are like, you know what? Maybe we should go and explore this town, because fuck Moraine. Maybe we should go explore Shadow Logoth too. And let's go look at this treasure down here.
Whoa,
why not?
There's a creepy dude. Let's follow him.
Random guy.
And it's our first realization. So the fun part of Moraine is she's Gandalf, but we can't trust her. We don't know if we can trust her.
Right.
And Shadow Logoth is kind of where we start going. Moraine is like, we're starting looking at Moraine like, no, we should really be trusting her, guys. Like, stop. you gotta listen. Dude, you gotta listen to Moraine.
On my first read through, dude, I didn't trust her at all. I thought she was a dark friend for sure.
Ooh.
I thought.
Yeah. Like in what way? In like a low gain, like we're gonna capture you low gain kind of way, or an actual dark friend?
Well, just kind of like it seemed too good to be true. Like you're reading this, you see all these terrible things always happening. She's too good to be true. She's doing all the right things. She's not messing up as severe with all these horrible stakes. It's too good to be true. Something is not right. And that just means she's good. Yeah.
Well, and what's not right is by book 4 when she's having a mental breakdown because she's like, I can't keep doing this. I think he won't listen to me. What do I do? Oh God, he's gonna kill himself. He went into Shadow Logoth and they stole a goddamn dagger.
I know.
I can't
Moraine is just the whole time like, I have lived my whole life for you, Rand. My whole life for the past 20 years until I met you has been about finding you and then protecting you. And Rand's like, no, I'm stubborn as a mule from fucking Maretharan or whatever.
The two rivers, stubborn as a mule. No one like me. Oh, yeah, because I'm from the two rivers.
Nope.
And meanwhile, like Matt's just like a kleptomaniac. He's just like, shiny. I'm just gonna put that in my pocket. Marae said we couldn't take anything, but what does she know? She doesn't know as much as me. I'm Matt. I'm cool.
And then Matt, for the rest of the book, just becomes a paranoid, like schizophrenic.
True.
That guy's looking at me.
The dagger starts like making him crazy.
They're like not allowed to stop at farms and stuff because he has this shady look. He just
gives off the vibe of this guy is a serial killer and he's gonna murder me in my sleep.
They're like, why does he have shifty eyes? He looks like a weasel. Like,
yeah, he's just so paranoid. You can't trust him because he can't trust anybody else. It's like it's what tore Shatter Logoth apart ultimately, right? It's that paranoia.
Well, and this is why I think that to a degree Matt is set up in book one. Like people say there's no character development for Matt until book 3. But I mean, I always had the impression that he was a sneak thief type guy. And then he ended up becoming that, but more. I feel like he was like a sneak trickster, and that was like his one character trait. And then he became a 3-dimensional character in like book 3 or book 4. Maybe that's what people mean when they say like he doesn't have. No, he became more of a person later. I don't know. No. Sneak. So yeah, so then we after Shadow Logoth, we go to flaming stab me in the eye guy. What's his name? You guys know his name? Fortune prick me. God, he's a through line for the whole series.
Yeah, but man, I don't know his name.
Captain. Oh.
Fortune stabbed me.
Well, and I think this is a good point to talk about. Is it Tavernan?
Taviran?
Hold
on. Actually, hold on. I'm sorry. I have to pee. Hold on. That's a good point.
God damn it. I have to figure out.
It starts with a B. It's like Captain.
Balls and on.
I mean, the best part about him is that he thinks he's the main character. Let's be real.
Yeah, he's just like, I am.
My favorite part. He is the NPC that thinks they're the main character. It's my favorite part about him. He's like, oh, everyone's after me. He's just like this ultra narcissist.
Where are you? Bale Doman.
Yeah, Bile Doman.
Bile.
Yeah.
Because
Bile.
B-A-Y turns into bile.
Yeah, I have an accent, okay? Leave me alone. Some of us don't do audiobooks, John. Don't have people to pronounce it for us.
Or mispronounce. They might be mispronouncing it. So yeah, we get on the ship with Bale Doman, and we forgot about Tom, guys, but whatever. Well, Tom's been here.
Shadow Logoth the Camelin is like half the book.
Yeah,
to
that's
some
true.
degree. There's a lot to talk about here, and Camelin itself has a lot to talk about, both with foreshadowing. Obviously, we meet Elaine. Rand meets a princess, and she immediately falls in love with him. We meet Galad and Gawain. We meet Eleda. We meet Morgause. We meet all of these characters. We meet Logain to some degree. We have that moment. I know we're going to talk about it later. But there's so much interesting stuff happening just in this sequence. I know we've talked a lot about all of this already by talking about Perrin and by talking about Rand, but kind of the little arcs that they go on. Both.
Yeah, and this is where we first split off, I think, from Rand. Like, at least that's what Brandon Sanderson always says.
Well, it's the first time. Perrin is our first other point. It's Rand is our point of view character until we split, and then it's Perrin.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
Perrin and Rand are our point of view characters for the rest of the book. Which, when you consider by book 14 that we have a new point of view character every 12 seconds, is like really he really like restrains himself. He's like, we're only really gonna like put our readers in the heads of these two characters. And so if you're looking at the series and you're like, holy cow, this is overwhelming, book 1, there's 2 point of view characters. It's really reasonable. He's only really asking us to understand the inner thought processes of 2 characters. By the time you get to book 4, we're talking about like that's increased to like 10, or perhaps even more by that point. But now we're dealing with just 2. We're dealing with 2. We're having people talk about the power. I guess it has to be more. Is Nynaeve one? Because we have the conversation between Moiraine and...
Yeah, you're right.
Nynaeve is.
So we get a little bit of Nynaeve as well. Nynaeve is our first girl point of view character, I think.
No, technically Egwene, she's in the before prologue.
Oh, the prologue. That's right.
Do you know, Caleb, when these books split for the part 1, part 2? When Eye of the World, like where the first part ended?
I assume. I don't remember.
I
assume it's Camelin.
Oh, Camelin. Okay. See, I would have assumed it would be right after Shadow Logoth, like right here.
It's too short of a sequence, I think. Camelin is really, to some degree, our halfway point. I think. I don't know.
Well, I thought from Camelin we get to the Ways pretty quick because
we do.
We
go
Loyal.
Ways into the Blight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, dude, and Loyal tells us so much.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring it back in really quick before we get to Camelin and Loyal. So when we get on the ship, there's a few cool things that happen on the ship. One of them is the first moment that I realized that Rand was the Dragon Reborn is when he does some trick. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Where he like slides down one of the masts and he like does it with the power somehow. But for some reason that's when it clicked for me that I was like, oh, that's the guy. Even though he's the point of view character, it should have been implied that he's the chosen one. It took me that long before I knew that he could channel. And then we're on the ship and Tom is playing so that they can have passage on it. The people at first are like kind of like, I don't know if we went here. But then they pass the Tower of Genji. Did you guys catch this?
Yeah.
So
it's this little drop that's like, hey, there's this weird thing out in the middle of nowhere. This is a surprise tool that'll help us later. It is like, you're not going to see this for like 12 books, but keep it in the back of your mind this whole time that they see this. Matt and Rand see the Tower of Genji, and it's this thing that's going to stick in the back of Matt's mind for the series, essentially.
Yeah, it's just like it's like silver, right? And it's like
it's like just a silver tower with no door or window. And Matt's like, ooh, there's treasure in it. I bet.
Direct quote, actually.
That's probably true. Yeah. But I think this is a cool point. The road to Camelin also gets us. We start seeing. We don't see it, but this is where the idea of the Tavernan come into effect.
Yes, Tavernan.
Every character these people interact with gets caught in the whirlpool, right? The idea of these Tavernan are there these whirlpools just smashing through the pattern, and if your thread comes into contact with them, you're getting pulled along with. That's why there's like one girl that Rand almost has a fling with on the road to Camelin, and she ends up like a character for like 5 books until she gets murdered at some point, I think, by Eleda. Spoilers.
What's her name? Do you remember?
LC.
Yes.
Eloise.
Or LC.
Eloise, I think. It's Elose. Because I just saw it in the book today when I was looking through it.
Yeah, and that's on like BookTube and stuff. That's one of the things, this section, that people kind of just from what I've listened to, they say is like the slog in the eye of the world. And I think that what you just brought up, Caleb, is like a fascinating point, because this is it. It's actually really necessary to set up the Taviran thing, because we've already had the Taviran shit going on, and that's why Egwene gets pulled onto the journey. And you're kind of like, when Egwene just goes, it's a little bit like jarring. It's a little bit like, why the fuck are you just wanting to just leave your whole family? You're what, 16, and you're just leaving your family. But what's happening actually with every interaction that Rand and Matt and Perrin are having with people is that they're Taviraing the people around them. And it's actually there is an actual magical force pulling people along with them. And so then that's not exactly explained in the beginning, at least this theory I have. But right here, it's like, okay, now we're going to explain how that magic system kind of works almost. Like,
well,
where
Loyal is telling us about it. He's like, hey,
this
thing is this is happening. And, even down to, we have the Tinkers. Those are reoccurring characters that are going to appear again and again and again and again and again throughout the story.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. It starts with an A. The one that Egwene dances with. Then it's becoming the Tinker with the sword that I think Min predicts with Perrin, because it's attached to Perrin. It's like, it's this interesting moment that they meet people. They're meeting Biodomin. They're meeting, Eloise. They're meeting the Tinkers. They're meeting people, and these people just get caught. They're meeting Tom in the Two Rivers. They're meeting Loyal in the Two Rivers, and they just get yanked along by the pull of these people. And it also explains their plot armor. It's really convenient, Robert Jordan, to be like, hey, they can't die because until the pattern's done with them.
Oh yeah, I know.
But it still somehow never feels, they never feel safe, even though they do kind of have plot armor. We're kind of told they have plot armor. And to some degree, I think it's on the road to Camelin, it's Tom's sacrifice as kind of our other quasi Gandalf character, the other half of Gandalf, if you will, the character that we implicitly trust to the death, like with our lives, as opposed to Moiraine, who we don't trust. Tom sacrificing himself to kill the Meradril or fight the Meradril is one of these moments that, don't make fun of me.
Not.
It's just one of these moments where it's like, oh, stakes. We aren't afraid to make you really like this character for half a book and then kill him at Whitebridge, even though he comes back.
Well, and that's like the whole time that Rand is going to go mad. So it doesn't even you've seen his fate in the prologue. That's why that prologue is so great, because that like okay, yeah, like he's Taviran. It's gonna be plot armor. It's gonna protect him, and it's gonna explain plot holes and save him. But
There's a fate worse than death waiting.
Yes, exactly. Like he'll go mad and kill people, and then fucking kill himself.
And we get that with Perrin and Matt as well. Matt has the dagger. He's slowly becoming more and more paranoid. You get it with Perrin in the form of the Wolf Brother. He's like this rage monster inside that's going to turn into a wild animal and kill everyone around him. We get it with all three of them. They all have this doom that's put on them to some degree that they're going to have to come to terms with. And that's kind of the arc that they're on. Yeah, you know, we don't get it. It does sort of. I will talk about it later in a different book. I'm sure we'll get there. Never mind. I won't go into this rant right here.
Really quick. I want to hear, Rich. I want to hear your thoughts on Taviran. But that guy's name was Aram.
Aram.
The tinkerer with the sword who rejects the way of the leaf in Min's vision when she looks at Perrin. Yeah. And then he protects Perrin like for forever, I think, right?
Yeah, until he decides to really not.
Yeah.
And then he protects Egwene.
I think he tries to kill someone.
He brings a gun to school at the end. Right.
Well, he's kind of a character that we get to see, and it happens to really all of the characters that kind of get pulled by the Taviran. They don't. The pattern doesn't care about them. It only cares about the Taviran. It's gonna just chew these people up and spit them out, and it just does not care how traumatic of an experience that is for them.
See, but Rand learns that you can as a Taviran bend the pattern in the way you want.
Well, I think that's Rand is so ungodly.
No, Loyal says it. It's one of the first. That's what I went back and looked at. He says it that Taviran have the ability to bend the pattern in their way, and things will weave around their choices. So it cements that early, but I feel like Rand doesn't really pick up on that. He picks up on all the gloom and doom in that conversation. And then when he becomes enlightened God Rand, he like looks back. He's like, oh, wait, I can just do this. And then does it. It's just, you know.
I'm going to have
nobody listens
weeds
to Loyal.
Grow around my feet.
Yeah, he's just like, huzzah.
I love how Loyal is Robert Jordan's self-insert character. And the whole time he's just the guy that's like sitting there kind of autistically telling people about the things he's obsessed with. And they're just like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. As he's like telling you, no, this is really important. You should know this about yourself. And they're like, nah, who cares? Shut up. Quiet.
He's like telling the importance of the groves and the trees. And they're just like, yeah, we get it, Loyal. All right.
Yeah, you're a tree nerd, okay? Nobody cares. We don't care about trees.
I relate to Loyal in the way that he's always trying to talk to people about his book, and nobody gives a shit. He's like, well, when I write my book, and people are like, all right, yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be anywhere.
You're working on a book.
Consonants away. But Rand, I can't write my book when you jump everywhere.
Right.
Rand's like, I'm gone again.
All right. So we got through that. Well, Rand and Matt's going like all crazy from the dagger stuff and on the road to Caemlyn anyway. And Rand and him are like, hey, have learned to play instruments, or that's how they're making their money. And yeah, so then we meet Loyal at the inn at the Queen's Blessing, I think it's called.
Oh, I forget entirely. I always think they're meeting the two rivers, but they don't. You're right. They meet at the Queen's Blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in Caleb, and this is where our whole party kind of comes back together. But first, we just meet Loyal, and he's got like 2 beds put together. He's pretty big. And he's always reading, putting a finger in the book. And yeah, so we're meeting Loyal, and we meet Logain. We see Logain. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So do you guys have any thoughts on this section where we actually are in Camelin now?
It is the moment where you as a reader should go, oh shit, Rand is the Dragon Reborn. If you didn't get it already, if you didn't like, oh, he used magic there. Whoa, that's crazy. This is the moment where the false dragon like looks at him from 2 miles away and laughs at him. Like, oh, you're the one. That's a funny joke on me. And I think it's also great. I love Logain as a character. We'll come back to this later on.
Oh yeah,
is reintroduced, but I love him as a character. He's so dang cool. And
yeah, and he's
taste
yeah
of him that he's kind of insane already.
Well, it gives you that, like, so you get intrigued by the madness in the prologue, and then this is another character that's a known male user of the power, and you're trying to look and see signs of the madness, and it immediately Robert Jordan's like, oh, I'm gonna scare the shit out of you as a reader. He's gonna look at Rand from
and
forever ago.
Laughing. It's not 2 miles, but I don't. It's like
I know,
yeah, distance.
Well, I feel like he's laughing because he's like, oh wait, it's you. Oh, you're fucked. Like, yeah, I'm not fucked because it looks like I'm not the dragon. I see that you are, though.
I think it's more like he's laughing like, huh, I was just a little too late, because that's like his whole thing at the end of the series is like, I was just a little late to be the dragon. And that's like the heart crushing reality that he has to settle with himself. So I feel like that's the first entrance of it on him.
Well, it's never. I don't think it's ever answered this question. I mean, I just go ahead and think this way, but like, I don't think it's ever answered that Logain or the other false dragons aren't the Dragon Reborn. It's just that we know that Rand made it all the way through and did all the prophecies and everything, but like, it's never answered that, like, because they're all going mad too.
Tattoos.
Well,
is that it?
Well, no, because
Rand
natural is born tattoos on Dragon Mount.
Oh, okay.
Loyal's
yeah.
Or Logain born on Dragon Mount.
You're right. Forgot about that.
That's why Moraine is hunting for him.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see. I think that the show actually did that scene quite well. Did you guys watch it?
Exist in the? I can't remember.
Yes, and Logain.
A Logain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the guy who plays Logain is pretty good.
He is really good.
And yeah, they had that scene where he's in the cage going through the streets of Camelin, and then he looks at Rand and just laughs, and it's a good scene.
Yeah.
Well, let me stress, as much as I make fun of the show, it's not because of the acting.
Yeah.
The acting's really good.
Right.
The casting was pretty good, I think, for most people.
Well, I'll bring up oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I'll bring up a point in the show's defense too, which I when I was listening to the videos today, I was watching. They brought up a good point. Well, actually, it was just in the comments. But when they're in Camelin, actually, and Rand falls off the wall after he sees Logain, falls into the princess's arms essentially, and it's Elaine, Princess Elaine. Queen Morgaze is the Queen of Andor. It's her daughter. It's the daughter heir. And then we meet Gawain and
yeah, the G's.
We
meet them. One's cool, one sucks. They're both Chads.
It's King Arthur's knights, Galahad and Gawain.
Yeah.
So,
but like when he gets taken, when Galad, the shitty one, the white cloak, when he goes and snitches on Rand, and then Rand gets taken up there to the Queen, and then Elida, I think it is, who has like future seeing abilities.
Force
Um,
skin, no sight.
looks at Rand and is like, and sees that he's going to destroy the whole world, and then they just like let him go. Now that can be explained with Taviran stuff, but at the same time, I think that there are certain things like that detail right there that
Does
did
she
not
say
need.
he's going to destroy the world, or does she say he's going to be bad for Andor?
It was something negative and
Yeah.
something where she was like, we can't just let him go, and Morgaze is like, actually, we're just gonna let him go. And Elaine's like, please, mother, please, because I really
He's
love
my
him
guest.
already.
Morgaz is like, oh, he's such a lovable rascal. If I was 20 years younger, I'd do him too.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
bullshit.
I would be one of his 3 wives.
Good God.
But anyway, there's certain things like that one scene where it's like maybe it's good that the show's cutting out some stuff, but they're also cutting out things that are pretty important too. So,
And then taking up a bunch of runtime on a love triangle, hey? We need the love triangle episode. Wouldn't that be fun if we introduced romantic tension out of nowhere and undermine Nynaeve's character because it's the one time in the show she's just wrong in the entirety of the first season? And it's to just randomly create drama for no reason whatsoever.
And then, but in the books, she's wrong all the time.
All right. So now we got Camelin to the Eye of the World, guys. So I don't remember how this goes down exactly. I think Loyal says something though.
They go from Camelin to
Faldor.
Faldara through the ways.
But why? I don't remember what the inciting thing was.
So their way, the White Cloak said something about they basically Moraine had been told by characters have been told by multiple times by like multiple people that there were that somebody was going to attack the Eye of the World. Basically, it was just like 3 multiple instances of it. So she's like, we need to go to the Eye of the World. And so they're just like, the fastest way is the ways. And the whale's like, we shouldn't do it. And they're like, we're going to do it. And then they go to the ways.
And then they bully Loyal into doing it anyways.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a bad idea, guys.
They get in there and Loyal's like, yeah, this was a horrible idea. And they're like, it's not that bad. And then the wind starts blowing. And so,
like, Loyal was right.
Yeah.
Again, it's like he's just like, guys, it's a really bad idea. And they're like, nah, shh, quiet.
Well, they don't
and
understand.
I love it so much. It's just a fun dynamic where he's just like, no, you should listen to me. I have really important things to say. And they're like, yeah. Shh. Main character talking over here, okay? Shh. Queen's not going to be my wife?
Oh, what's Loyal's wife's name later? You guys remember?
I don't remember.
He talks about her ears. She has such lovely ears. Rand.
I love him so much. I just love how he's this giant massive giant character, and he just gets bullied by everyone around him all the time. It's just such a fun
Except when his mom shows up and he gets angry.
Yeah.
Only time he sticks up for himself, he's like,
every so often he's just like, no, I'm putting my foot down. And it's never when like some life-threatening thing is happening. It's always like, no, I'm gonna go finish my book. Leave me alone.
It's like, you're making me uncomfortable. That's always when he
All right, so we're in the ways. Mach and Shin, that's the name of the wind, I believe. And that this is like a piece of the Dark One. Is that right?
It's a reflection. So the waves were made exclusively, I think, by Louis Theron and the companions. For
No, they were made for them by the Ogiers.
No, it was made for the Ogiers by the male half of the True Source.
Really?
And because it's the male half of the True Source that made the ways, it becomes corrupted.
Shit. Okay.
And so the Masha Shin is like a personification of literal the madness
Yeah.
of Saidin.
Yeah, which is a great way to like to again like pepper that in. That's going to be throughout the rest of the series. Yeah.
Well, and again, there's a character that we haven't talked about, which is Padden Fane. Every
Oh.
time we like, oh, he's a dark friend. Those are really bad. You can't be worse than a dark friend. And then we go, oh, but there's this Shatter Loga thing. It's really crazy. How about we just give him a little dose of that Shatter Loga thing? Oh, here's this Masha Shin thing. That's even worse than Shatter Logoth. Let's just give him a little dose of that Masha Shin thing. And by the end of it, he's like the most evil, terrible thing we could possibly imagine. Hellbent on killing Rand.
We skipped something very important.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. What?
Lan's origin story happens. We learn about the Golden Crane and Faladar, where Faldara. Yep, that's it.
Well, no, we haven't hit that yet because we're in the ways.
No, they go in.
We're in Faldar's
after the ways.
Right after the ways.
Yeah. Sorry.
But we're done with the ways now, so we can go into it.
You're right.
I just wanted to point out that chronologically you were wrong.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Stop being wrong, okay?
After I said that, I was like, wait, why am I? This is where we're at anyway.
Yep.
So yeah, anyway, so we're at Faldara after that, which I always forget the fucking name of. But yeah, well, you were saying Lan's origin story.
Well, this is where we learn that Lan is our Aragorn character.
Literally.
There you go. There. For everyone that says it's just the Lord of the Rings, man. Yeah, Lan is our Aragorn. Cool.
With a better story, though. Rich, what do you know what that is? Because I always get confused. It's like 13 towers.
The 7 towers.
7.
Yeah. The
city had 7 towers. So like it was just the Malkir, the city that is the capital city of Malkir.
Well, so they were the ones that were the furthest in, and they were like the biggest fighters of the darkness. Of the Dark One and the lance that they had into the territory. They were like the wall. But
yeah, they go through Malkir.
Yeah.
When they go through the Blight, I think at one point they even see the 7 towers as they travel through the Blight.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's moved up so far.
Yeah, because the Blight has slowly crept down over the years, and it's eaten Malkir when Lan was a baby. And so there's this idea that there's this exiled king without a kingdom, and he is this guy named Lan.
But everybody awaits for him. Mandragoran.
There's like this exiled people that kind of exist there. Which I guess is a theme we get a lot in this series, is that there's kind of displaced peoples that kind of exist in various places, waiting for a return to normalcy, even if that return to normalcy is like 4,000 years for the Tinkers, you know.
There's a constant reminder that something, like there's a pattern and everything is repetitious, but something's wrong constantly. Like there's something that is off with the people. They aren't like comfortable.
I mean, yeah, Camelin, when we passed over, Camelin's like on the brink of civil war when they go through Camelin. It's one of the Rand like just gets, I think, the red thing on his sword, the red ribbon on his sword, and he doesn't even realize that he's like picked a side in the Civil War. But yeah, it's like everywhere they go is just on the verge of destruction and chaos.
Well, and it's cool that in Eye of the World, it's all like peripheral. Like they're just walking through it. You don't really get too much of them interacting with it. It's all just little bits of the world and how there's like this unrest. And I think in book 2 we kind of get more of an idea of like when you get the Shan coming in, and they kind of actually like provide these cultures with order, even though it's like a fucked up cost of like Aes Sedai. But like when they come in, they're like, oh, things are actually better now. This is weird. But you get more of an idea of how like the societies work. But then you're in the later books, it really does that more. But I think it's really cool how Robert Jordan very slowly built this world, because like you said, Brand just gets this ribbon on his sword and he's accidentally joined his side, but we don't get a ton explained about that or these like cultures. We get a lot of like history stuff like about like Manetheren, and we get some of those info dumps from Moraine and the others and Loyal. But it's not it definitely flows really well and then builds into later where you're like, then you get the really big stuff when you're ready for it.
Well, yeah, and I think also it helps give the feeling that the world is alive, that there's a world that exists outside of our characters. It's not so much a problem oftentimes in books, but in video games it can be especially noticeable, where it's like the only person that's ever made a decision in this entire game is my character.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, I'm the main character. So to have this world that, you often hear people talk about living, breathing world when it comes to video games. Books, they've solved this problem, and they've solved this problem exactly in the way that we've seen this. And that, hey, you start really slow and you have your character walk in and there's like civil wars going on and they're walking through it going, whoa, there's a lot going on and I have no idea what any of it is, and I'm just here making mistakes I think it's just a fashion thing, and it turns out I've picked a side in a civil war. Cool, that's fun. And it happens. It's like, oh, there's a sword. He has a sword, and it's his dad's sword, and it has a heron on it. That becomes really important as we go on, and people start interpreting what that means because it's the mark of a blades master. So that guy must be a blade master, and it's to have these things imprinted on the character. And he has to like, oh crap, he has to deal with that. It's a fun way to world build, where it's like, man, these are really distinct cultures and they have their own things. These are groups of people and they have their own things going on. And later on in the series, we're gonna get introduced to all these characters that we know and love, and they're gonna influence all of that. And they're gonna be in control of all of that. Rand's gonna rule like half the world at this point. But until we get there, we're going to earn that by having these characters be nobodies. And we're going to get to see that this is actually a world that exists. It isn't driven just, when the camera's on them. They exist outside of the camera as well. There are things happening that we don't get to see. We only hear sometimes rumors of it, It's the entire second book to some degree. We're getting rumors of things happening at Falm. We don't even know what it is until we get to see it. So it's just a really well done world building wise. Robert Jordan's really good writer. Okay, I don't know what to tell you.
Spoiler.
Well, yeah, it's that's really something I've really never thought about. That's why I appreciate these conversations so much. Is that like it really opens my mind to a lot of different aspects of the way that these guys write and how they're doing the thing. Because when I read Eye of the World the first time, I'm not really thinking of how these things are working on like a technical level. I always think of Wheel of Time as like, this is a really well realized world, but I don't think about the way that happened, which it is just like in Eye of the World. We're not getting a ton of shit. It's just small little tidbits all the way through. And then more small little tidbits, and then book 4 is like, okay, you're ready now. Like,
well, we get like medieval England, which is a character that we know. And then the foreign culture that we get is the Borderlander culture. And those are really the two cultures that we get to experience. Well, we get to experience the Tinkers and, stuff like that. So we get some hints that there's really cool stuff outside, Bile Dolman's from, I don't even remember what the country's called. He's a foreigner. So we get to
Of course, and
experience that
stab me in the face.
Yeah, that there's like all these cool different cultures that exist. We're not going to see them in book 1. We're going to see a culture that basically everyone's written about already because it's medieval England. And then we're going to get to see like really cool, I don't even know what they're inspired by, but I'm sure they're inspired by something like medieval Japan or something. Who knows? But this really cool Borderlander culture. And then that's kind of and that's it. That's all the culture that we get to experience. And then when Rand gets to go in book 2 and see more cultures, it's not so overwhelming because we're really only introduced to 1 or 2 cultures per book. It's again just the genius of how he writes and takes his time with things.
Yeah.
Well, he teaches you, like, it's not that like there's too much detail in things. He just puts a ton of detail out there, and then he picks and he uses all of it for his world later on. He'll just, if he needs something, it feels like he'll just grab something that he put as an extra little tidbit in the past, and that's how he'll weave it. I don't know if he had like a really long plan for the series, but it doesn't, I don't know. As you're reading it, it just feels like he's describing the room. It doesn't feel like he's adding all these little tiny tidbits until you go back and you're like, what, all these tiny little details actually meant something at the time. It's not just Rand going to a big city for the first time. It's, hey, that's a character that's going to show up later and is actually important. And I don't know.
Well, even in it's like it's so successful. I think thinking about book 4, they're having merchants and they start talking about people asking about Two Rivers tobacco, and it's like it makes you nostalgic for a place you've never been, that doesn't exist. It's like, oh yeah, Two Rivers. I know what that is. It's home, and it's a really cool moment, and it's so earned. There's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes for Robert Jordan to really make you really understand these places. And so by the time you get to book 14, it's not just that there's like these places on a map and they're all kind of the same. No, there's places on the map, they're all different, they're all full of different people and cultures, and we know them all and we love them all and we care about them all and we really don't want them to die. Rand, please don't destroy them. We like these people, and it's just so well done.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now let's head over to, we've done Feldara. Let's go into the Blight. The people, the Mount, what are they? Mount Kiri? The people of Feldara are like, we have to go fight all these Trollocs. That's like a huge force that's coming.
Wayne's Gap. Yep.
Yeah. And then because I think Moraine was asking them for help and they were like, we can't.
No. She like was just telling them that they wanted to go, and then they asked her for help.
Yeah.
And she said that they were going on a more important mission. And then he's like, well, then let me help you. And she's like, no, you have to go do your thing and I have to go do mine. Like you're okay.
Well, and we get like this sense of impending doom that like, hey, Faldara's garrison is marching out to go like fight this Trolloc army that they can't fight because it's huge. And all they're doing is buying time.
They said they're going to send their own, they're sending their people down south. Like they are leaving their city, like Lan, as you're walking, they like looking around and they see that there's no farmers. And like they look at a plow and it's like there it has to be less than a week, but they're all gone. And it leaves you like this sense of foreboding, like, oh, What's going on up here?
There's something coming and it's bad.
I love the blight too. I love the way that I like the blight in the show too, honestly. But it did not capture what my imagination what it was in my imagination, which was like it was like really like white, like but like kind of like wash. Yeah, bleached. Yes.
It's somehow both like disgusting and rotten,
yeah,
but sterile at the same time. It's this horrible contradiction. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't work, but it does. And it's like this. It's like the oil on water descriptions, or the flower opening, or the flame in the void. Robert Jordan is so good at making you feel what the characters are feeling by describing it. And for the blight, it's just so wrong. It's like, oh, all of this stuff, there's all this kind of weird alien life going on, but it's sterile. There's nothing life-like about it. It's just wrong. So fundamentally wrong. It's like something was, an AI was told what life was and it decided to make it. But it doesn't know what life is. And it can't recreate it. It's so disturbing and fun. I love it.
And are they getting chased? I feel like something's following them at this point. I mean, most of the book that's happening.
Padme Fane's chasing them, but I think the blight responds to. The blight knows you're intruding on it, I think is how they describe it. I can't remember.
Plants and stuff.
Yeah, like they know you're there, and the blight is like it's like you're a foreign body in an animal, and the white blood cells are coming to get rid of you. Like you're a foreign object, and you need to be destroyed. Is kind of how it feels.
And then the green man comes and opens the portal out of nowhere and is like, Rand hasn't seen me yet, so I'm going to show myself to him for the first time. And then Moraine's like, I've seen you before. And he's like, oh, you're only supposed to see me once or something like that, right? And then, then they're talking to the green man.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, Moraine's like, we got to go find the green man. It's like, Lan's like, yeah, but you already found him. You can't find him twice. She's like, yeah, but I gotta. Like, you can't find him twice. We're doomed.
Why did she need to find him? Because that was a big.
I think she knew he was the guardian of the Eye of the World.
I feel like the Green Man, though, like that was for a lot of the book, I was wanting to know what the Green Man was. I feel like that was mentioned pretty early on. Maybe it was just some foreshadowing.
I think Loyal might mention him. Obviously.
So anyway, we're here with the Green Man, and what does he even do? He takes Rand into the Eye of the World. What?
He takes him to see the Eye of the World, yeah. And then
does he take all of them?
Well, they all go. I think some of them wait outside, which is why, when the two Forsaken come, there's like a fight outside happening, and then I don't know. Rand like runs. I don't remember how it all plays out. It's a little bit.
The ending is so confusing.
Well, I think Rand starts getting inclinations that he starts realizing he can channel, and he runs from it, and he runs outside, and then, or he's running from the Forsaken. I can't remember, but then we get I see you. He starts seeing the connections that people have, and like
cuts it.
Well, I think what's happening, and obviously they're going to be like huge nerds that know exactly what's happening, but I think what's happening is the Forsaken. I think I'm not going to try to pronounce the name and get made fun of by John, but the Forsaken. No, it's I think it starts with an A. Agenor.
Ishmael or something like that.
No, it's one of the two that come and attack them there. The not the mummy one. The mummy one dies. I think Moraine kills him. but gets like seriously hurt because
We
she
got
lights him on fire.
Agenor and Balthamel. Balthamel. Yeah.
But
Baltimore.
one of them, I think, genuinely seizes the eye of the world, and he actually gets the connection to the eye of the world, and Rand takes it from him.
Yeah.
And that's because I think it describes him reaching out and taking the golden light for himself, and I think that's the eye of the world. And then because he has access to eye of the world is a well of pure, untainted sighting. And it's supposed to be there for the dragon to fight the Dark One. And he gets this connection to it and basically goes Super Saiyan. And that's how the ending of the book happens. He goes to Tarween's Gap. He wipes out the army. The creator, like, unironically, he has like his Jesus being baptized moment, and the creator comes down and is like, "This is my son," and
Yeah.
only I think it's supposed to be a woman's voice or something. I don't remember how exactly it works. Book nerds know. The real Wheel of Time nerds know. But
Rand basically becomes Jesus. Everybody sees him.
Rand goes God mode for the end of the book and solves all of their problems.
He uses a gateway, right? Without knowing. Because he portals himself to Tarwin's Gap.
Yeah.
From the Eye of the World.
Yeah. And then he has a fight with Balzamon, who is Shamal.
Yeah.
And he, I think, cuts his connection. And I can't remember. I don't know if he cuts his connection to the true source or the one power. Because I think Rich mentioned it before, that there's this other thing that exists, that the Dark One gives you power.
Yeah.
I think it was the Dark One.
I think it was I think they call it the one power. It's really, it's like the one source,
the true power,
true source, and the true power, and the
so
it's like they've just exchanged two of the words.
If I remember correctly, they talk about it like he sees that has a lines attached to him.
He has got a like black connection.
That's
yeah.
And Rand just is like, I'm gonna disconnect these wires and see what happens. And and that's what
that's what happens. Yeah,
that's
exactly what happens.
It works. He's like, oh, really I killed cool. Satan.
Yeah, Moraine's like, you didn't kill Satan.
Rand's like, you didn't see him in there like I did. That was Satan. He's dead. I
love how it's like 3 books of just like, I did it. I fought the last battle. Yes.
So much.
Time to retire and go back to the Two Rivers now. Like, and then he does it in book 2. He's like, I solved all the problems. Well, like, he can't go back to the Two Rivers because he's gonna kill everyone around him, go insane. But he's like, I killed
through the
Satan
woods
again. And then book 3 is like,
killing
all right, I'm not getting fooled. I know it's not over this time, and he's just insane.
Yeah, the whole book. I know. I love how how Robert Jordan was writing these as if there wasn't going to be another one he could release, so it's like self-contained.
Book 1 has to be it,
but it ends up.
2, we're gonna make it book 2. Okay, we got approval from Tor to do a book 2. Cool. All right, book 3, we'll make it a trilogy. Okay, cool. Yeah, make it a trilogy.
Yeah,
we could go more. And then I think by book 4 they were like, all right, you just have a blank check. Go do what you want.
Do whatever you want. Yeah, but I love how it makes it more realistic. Like, that's how I would be. That's how I am in my life. I'm like, okay, I did it. Right?
I solved my problems.
I finished the whole Dot Foods. I picked everything.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. Whenever we run out of work.
Roll credits. They lived happily ever after. This is it, right?
Yeah.
Then,
wait, they drop more tickets?
Your alarm
There's always more.
Morning, you know?
Wait, they're dropping more?
Yeah.
Go clean the aisles? Wait.
Sorry, audience. This is just jokes that only
sorry.
warehouse people are gonna understand. I'm sorry.
No, but It's beautiful. And then the Green Man.
Yeah, so Rich,
Sorry,
we've
the
talked.
Green Man dies to kill one of the Forsaken. I'm sorry. That's the.
He
Well,
kills Agnor, I
Oh,
think.
your crazy theory.
Oh well, and then Rand, realizes that he's gonna reincarnate as a Green Man, or the substitute for it, since the last of them was killed. But I don't know. My crazy theory is like through the book, all of the ages pass, right? They go all the way through every single age. Well, this was the ending of the age of whatever darkness they were under, basically, because they're going back to discovering all the old technology. So the Green Man dying basically bends the pattern towards the dark side for it to then bend back to the light side, which is basically I see as Rand defeating the Dark One, putting them back on the trajectory outwards. And I see the whole story as like a weaving, basically.
So if you think Rich is wrong, say it in the comments below.
Yeah, call me an absolute moron.
Drive that engagement to the channel. So John
to make it, yeah,
give viewers, please.
Yeah.
We need likes and comments.
Yeah, actually dislike the video. Yeah,
dislike the video because it's just a bunch of boring guys rambling about things they don't really understand, and tell us how wrong we are down there. We read all these comments and love them very much.
Yeah. We work with our backs and we read fantasy books. All right, give us a fucking break. We're doing the best we can. And
no,
Rich,
don't tell us how wrong we are down there.
Yeah, wait, yeah, don't go break. But also ring the bell. But listen, Rich thinks Rand becomes the Green One. That's what we're talking about here. Becomes the Green Man. I said Green One.
Yes, the Green Man. Well, just the fact that afterwards he knows the Song of the Trees, and it says in the beginning that like Loyal is like the only one left that knows the Song of the Trees. Rand is,
and Rand's like, yeah. Shh. Big things are happening.
The Green Man, and the Green Man's like, yeah, I'm the only one left. All right, I'm gonna go die, and so. Like, I think that's like
Rand. Then why? Yeah, why is stuff growing around Rand? How do we explain that?
He's just that's exactly what the Green Man does. He weaves the good side of the pattern back. Like he's the part that regrows the strands of what was gone from like balefire and stuff like that. Because I mean, the pattern always seems to bounce back, right? So there has to be a positive force if there's so many negative forces against it. That did happen with the whole end the battle, all of the deaths of the important people.
Egwene dies. Yeah. I kind of been wondering though, as we're talking about Rand possibly being the Green One, I'm wondering if this is another Eye of the Worldism, like Moraine becoming a giant, where the Green Man was actually just nothing and he had no idea what the fuck the Green Man was supposed to do or be. Just like how the Eye of the World is never used later. Like, there's all this shit in Big One. What?
Quite true, I think.
What? Do they use it later? It's supposed to be for the last battle. We don't use it for the last.
Well, I think there's like Luce Theron, when he's babbling in Rand's head, he keeps saying, I can't use it. I can't use it. I can't use it. I can't use it. And I always thought he was talking about, what's the sword? Pronounce it so I don't mess it up.
Kalendor.
So I always thought he was talking about Kalendor because he knows it's a trap. But I think he's talking about the Eye of the World, because I think Rand actually still has access to it, but he can't use it. It's part of a theory that Rand has DID, and Lews Therin is like the sub-personality of himself he's created to like contain the channeling side of himself. And so rather than an actual reflection of Lews Therin in his head, doesn't quite explain how Lews Therin then teaches him how to do things he doesn't know how to do, but hey, it's my brother's theory, not mine. So
Well,
He's the dragon.
I like that theory. The only thing that what I think is that what you're talking about pays off in The Gathering Storm when Rand finally snaps because Min, our our main squeeze, guys. She's
best
the
girl, best girl,
best girl is getting choked. And so then he's like, I have to use the one source. And then Lews Therin is like, no, it's of him. I can't use it. And so I think that's what he's talking about. I think he's talking about he can't use the true source because it's of the Dark One.
We'll have to see when we get there. I haven't reread the series in so long that I'm rereading it right now as part of this video series. So.
Thank you so much for doing that. I am too.
On the second one now.
Well, guys, so yeah, the ending.
I do think I hate to interrupt you real fast before we
go ahead.
To the end here. It is really cool going back and rereading it to see some of the Eye of the World isms, like the magic system not quite being figured. Like he doesn't quite know what he's doing with it yet. He doesn't quite know what it's going to become. It's fun. I might have mentioned in the last video that I was really big into Redwall as a kid, and Redwall had a lot of that, where as Brian Jakes was writing it, he was kind of figuring out that, oh, this is what I want this to be. And so things kind of change over time, even if chronologically they're happening in the past. It's kind of fun just from a meta perspective to kind of see and go, oh, this is really fun to see. This doesn't quite work with what we know happens in the future, but this is a really fun early iteration of the magic system. And I love it. It's so much fun to go back and reread this series, both for things that's like, oh, this pays off so well and later on, for things like Min's visions or Elena's prophecies about Rand, but also to have these moments like, you had no idea you were going to change all of this. We're never talking about the Green Man again.
Dude, Padam Fane.
Yeah, Padam Fane, you're going to get to a point where you're like, I don't know what to do.
I don't like this guy. Can we just kill him? Wait, what is he doing to Tarlux?
Why did I make Super Satan? What am I doing?
Do you remember when he just is coming out of the mist at the end of one of the books in the climax, and he's just like slicing Rand with daggers, and then he disappears or something? Like that's the end of one of the books. I'm pretty fucking sure is he just and Padam Fane is the big bad at the end. And he's like, ha.
Rand's like, you again?
Here's like the fun part of going back and rereading this is like Padam Fane is like a driving villain, especially in book 2. Here's God's honest truth. I don't even know how Padam Fane dies in the actual series. I can't remember from my first read through when I was a teenager how Padam Fane dies. That's how little Padam Fane means to Robert Jordan. By the end of this series, and like us as readers, we're like, "Oh yeah, Padam Fane. He was like the what?
He was the
what
dude
happened to him?
Tortured a Murdral?
Did he die? Is he? What happened? Did he like fall off a what?
Yeah, he's like in the mist, some mist where the fucking shit, the Shatter Logoth stuff
Okay.
is like out on the battlefield of the last battle. I'm pretty sure. And then Matt goes out into it, and he's like Matt is literally just like, all right, hold on, I got to go into this mist. And then Matt goes into the mist, and he finds Pattern Fane because he somehow knew he was there. And Pattern Fane's like, I'm gonna kill you, and Matt's like, yeah. And then he kills him with the dagger, I think, is how that all plays out. It's really anticlimactic. It was basically like, here's a thread we need to tie up, and Matt's the one to do it because he has the dagger thing with Pattern Fane.
Yeah, I don't even. To be fair, there's a lot going on in that book.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That chapter, the last battle, is I think 8 hours long, audiobook form, just for the one chapter.
It is. That's ridiculous.
It's probably amazing though. I need to. If I can just get through the circus, guys, I gotta get through.
Dude, we'll make the circus entertaining.
I gotta get through the girl chapters. Okay, Oh God.
I bet it's gonna be good, man. Honestly, like I remember the Eye of the World the first time.
Dude.
It wasn't like super gripping. It gripped me, but like the second time, I liked the Eye of the World better.
Yeah.
What's her face's foretelling signs will probably save it. I think all of their stupid rituals that they do.
Min?
No. Matt's wife.
2-1.
Oh, the omens that she's seeing?
Yeah, I think the omens. If we talk about them and actually,
I just say the circus for the girl chapters. I'm gonna be honest. I was reading book 4 in like March. It is December. I got to the first girl chapter in book 4 and just closed the book and set it down, and I haven't picked it back up. Okay, I can't.
Sexist.
I can't do Nynaeve. Okay,
Oh, but I remember you saying that she was always a good character at one point.
She gets good. I have this impression that Nynaeve gets good at some point. Now, I have been told by other people that Nynaeve does not get good, and she's just as annoying in book 19 as she is in book 1, okay? Maybe I'm insane, but I have this distinct impression that sometime later in the series, I love her. And God, I don't know why right now in book 4.
Because she chills the fuck out, but
she's
also
insufferable.
She drops Lan off and is like, run, motherfucker, and then leaves. That's why Nynaeve is fucking fire, because he's like, no, you can't. And you're like, shut the fuck up, Lan. You know, like, as the reader, you're like, get the fuck over yourself. And he's like, no, I will. And she's like, all right, you want to be a fucking bitch about it? I'm going to go drop you off all the way on the west, and you got to run all the way east. And I'm going to go tell everybody that you're coming.
Run through your entire country.
I'm going to get you an army, so you aren't just walking into the Blight alone.
Yeah, like a fucking
whether
idiot.
You like it or not.
Yeah.
I love that sequence in the book, because I get this impression later on in the series that she's just like, I have plans. I have things that I want to have happen, and I'm just going to teleport anywhere that I want to, and I'm going to make them happen. And that's going to be that.
The only way
Rand, you're going to have to wait a minute, okay? I'll come heal some shit later. I got to go do, like, really cool things over here for my husband. Thank you very much.
So I just imagine this in the TV show is going to just be a training montage of, like, you just see Lan, like, trying to sneakily go into towns, but in the background you're just going to see people, like, slowly start to follow him, and it's just a montage of him going through each city, and you just see a bigger group behind him until
they cut that whole thing out of the show. That's how they handle that cool, awesome thing that you loved. They cut it out.
Okay, yeah. Okay, by this point, like, the show is going to be unrecognizable from the book series. Okay, completely.
You're right. Nynaeve will just teleport an entire army for him.
Nynaeve will join Rand's harem, okay, by the end of this, okay? Like
Lan will be
we're
a
not
cuck.
we're not talking about the Wheel of Time anymore. We're like, hey, the actor had to leave. Contract ran out. We couldn't get it back. Sorry, don't know what to do. We tried replacing Matt like 3 times. We can't really get rid of him. He's a fan favorite. There's got to be a guy named Matt in the show. Sorry, we don't really know what to do with him, but here he is.
I love how what we
I hate
just
the
did.
series so much.
what we just did is we took Nynaeve being insufferable in the first book, and the way that she ends up becoming likable is when she can travel instantly anywhere she wants. Only when she gets instant gratification anytime at all is Nynaeve a likable character. So maybe I've changed my stance on her. I don't know.
I don't know. I think later in the series, I have this impression that she becomes the Gandalf character in a way. She like becomes the person that's setting everyone else up for success.
Yes.
And she's like okay with being that person.
So
instead of having, I don't know. I have that impression. We'll find out. Watchers catch up later. We'll find out if I still have that impression by the end of the book, end of the series. I might still hate her. I might. Who knows?
Well, I mean, she's the one who helps cleanse the male half of the source.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one who sees what it looks like for somebody to be mad and what it looks like for them to be healed of their madness, who can channel Saidin. And then she is the one who is there with Rand and Moraine in the last section. But yeah, she does chill out, and like that's why she's so good. That's what I remember, is that like it's not just that she's like chilled out, it's that she's like become kind of a loving person as she's gotten over her own thing, like when she gets over the channeling problem. The block.
I seem to remember that being the moment where it was really, I think it was at the climax of one of the books where she like clears the block. And I remember after that being like, oh, this character gets really good now.
Yeah. Well, do you guys have any final thoughts you'd like to share about The Eye of the World, book 1 of the Wheel of Time?
No, it's great.
What would you guys rate it?
What would we rate it?
Yeah.
Okay. Fuck, dude. Out of 5 or what?
I think we have to give it out of 10. A 5 would make me feel too bad.
I'm going to give it a 7. The main reason I give it a 7 is because it's 100% enjoyable the whole way through for me. The only thing that is taking points away, mainly, it are the things like the Green Man, the Eye of the World, Moraine stepping over the wall, things of that nature that are a little bit like far-fetched. They're cool, but they're things that like I, as a reader, was like, okay, what's that? And then it was never alluded to, even in like kind of like a an ambiguous way later. It was just kind of, it felt kind of lazy almost, which I don't want to. It's not a lazy series, but yeah, that's why I give it a 7 out of 10.
Caleb?
I would. I'm not gonna compare it to anything. I'm just gonna say, as a Wheel of Time book, it's probably like a 9. It does so much work setting the tone for the series, and Rand in these first 2 books is a huge important character, and he starts becoming more and more of a background character, but he has earned our love so much in these first couple of books that you love him all the way through, even when I think there's like some later books where he's mentioned like 3 times in the whole book. We don't even get a point of view of him, And the whole time you're like, yeah, but what's Rand doing? I really care about Rand. I want to know what Rand's doing.
Oh
He's my
man.
guy.
He teleports
Um,
in, does some awesome shit every single time.
Yeah, but he's earned it through these first couple of books in a way that Egwene's gonna earn a lot of respect in book 2,
Yeah.
and it lets him be that kind of background character where we still love him, we still really care about him, but it's okay that he kind of sits out for a couple books while we deal with some other stuff. Um, and we aren't going to lose our investment in that character. And I think for that reason, it's going to be a 9. Like John said, there's a few things like, yeah, he ends up going a different direction with the magic system that is not going to easily explain why Moraine can step over a wall. I don't think you can do that with the magic system as it's given later in the series. But yeah, I mean, it's such a good book. It does so much work. The From Min's visions to Aleda's prophecies, we get so much foresight on what's coming in the series in a way that I don't even think we could have. Your first read through, you can't take it all in, really, truly. Even these characters, going back and reading the book and being like, oh yeah, this character's in book 1. Wow. you know, there's so much work being done in this book, and it's so nice to go back and reread and appreciate. If you haven't reread it recently, go back and reread it. It's a great time, I promise.
Rich?
I think I'd have to give it an 8.5. I mean, it's
Oh, half. Oh,
yeah, I gotta be
Cheater.
yeah.
I think it's an 8.6. I'd go 8.7.
I'm
But
8.67.
Soft 7, bro.
It's yeah. But it's hard to think of a book that has had a better as an introductory to such a large book. Like
Yeah.
if you know, like especially after reading the end, to hint at so much, but you can't pick up at all that these are hints. You just feel like they're random details on your first read through. That's an impressive to add. That's pretty impressive to just be able to bring that all that detail, that entire storyline through 14 books, 2 authors. I mean, it just makes you enjoy the series more and more. I feel like it's a series that every time you reread a book, you're gonna notice a little tiny detail that you didn't before. So I feel like you just have to give it gets its marks. I mean, as you say, it has its like he hasn't cemented if it's gonna actually work yet, like his series is. So like his magic system isn't figured out. He doesn't have all of his characters figured out as Matt, as you can tell. I mean it, but at the same time, he's just so good. Amazing. 8.5, man.
8.5. Good score. Well, I feel like a big jerk now. My
Yeah,
7.
this guy doesn't even like it.
I would like to Kidding.
well, no, I think that's entirely fair. There's going to be, especially if you're rating. I don't know, if you're just rating it as like a general fantasy novel, not just as a Wheel of Time book. 7 probably makes a lot of sense. But there are
I think
stronger
I think
books in the
7's
series.
7's a pretty good score for me. Like I like Eye of the World it's one of my favorite Wheel of Time books. It's like there's a group of them that really stick out in my mind. One, 2 is really good. Two's probably
two is a 10.
yeah.
Spoilers,
Two's better than
2 is a 10.
Two's better than number 1, but book 4, and then like and then it's like 11.
It's true.
Remember,
We're gonna get to a point where it's like, okay, this video is like an hour and a half long, and we're gonna have videos where it's like, okay, we read this book
Duon's still doing a thing.
Yeah, 2 on
that's
for
it.
books.
There was a circus, guys. That's it. All right, see ya. It was a 6. It was like a 4. Okay,
Matt's really good with knives.
I remember liking all that stuff. It's just like a blur from book 6 to 10.
Oh yeah, I couldn't tell you anything. Like I could be like, okay, Perrin is chasing the Shido or whatever, trying to get Fail, and then
cleansing the source.
There's cleansing of the source happens, and Elaine's pregnant. Oh gosh, she's somehow more annoying when she's pregnant.
The box. Elaine is pregnant for 5 books.
For forever. Oh, there's gonna be like ladies in the chat, like, yeah, pregnancy feels like forever, jerks. Sorry.
Yeah, it should be 9 books of pregnancy. Sorry,
you've never been pregnant, obviously.
No. We know we don't know it's awful. We are sorry for you that it's awful. Weird. And thank you for your
sacrifice.
You're appreciated. Yeah.
This is why we can't channel. So, guys, anything else Eye of the World related that you'd like to say before we call it quits for the night?
No, I think we've said.
Yeah. Good.
Quite a bit.
All kinds of things there to say. And more.
All right. Well, thank you guys again, Caleb, Richard, so much for coming on the channel. And this has been a fucking blast. I specifically love talking about Wheel of Time with you guys. Probably more than the other books we talked about. So I'm so excited to keep going through the series again with you guys. Yeah. Have a good night. Bye.